Hey, welcome to The Explainer. We're about to dig into a fascinating mystery. It's about a book that's actually quoted in the New Testament, but you probably won't find it in your Bible. And this story, it reveals something really surprising about where the Bible came from and why one very ancient church decided to never, ever let this book go. So let me just ask you this right out of the gate. Do you think all Christian Bibles are identical? I mean, if you were to walk into a church in, say, Rome, and then one in Nashville, and then one in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, would the table of contents in their Bibles all match up? Well, the answer, maybe surprisingly, is a definite no. And the biggest clue to this whole puzzle lies with the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. See, their Bible includes this incredibly ancient, wild, apocalyptic text that most other Christian traditions dropped centuries ago. It's called the Book of Enoch. So, how on earth did that happen? All right, let's dive into the roadmap. First, we're going to talk about why this book was never really lost to begin with. Then we'll step back in time to look at this sort of shared library of texts that existed before the Bible was, well, the Bible. We'll trace the two different paths that led to two very different canons, see how one tradition kept the book while the other let it fade away, and finally, what this incredible story really tells us about sacred texts. Okay, first up, a book that was never lost. We hear this all the time, these stories about the lost books of the Bible. But that label just doesn't fit the Book of Enoch. Because while it definitely disappeared from the Western world, it was alive and kicking somewhere else. And that somewhere else, it was Ethiopia. Get this, for over 1,000 years, while Europe and the Middle East basically forgot this book even existed, the only complete version known to humanity was being carefully preserved in Ethiopia, copied over and over again by scribes in the ancient Ge'ez language. So you see, Ethiopia isn't where the book was found again, it's the place where it was never lost in the first place. So how did we get here? Well, to get it, you've got to travel back with me to a time before the Bible as a single bound book was even a thing. In the early days of Judaism and Christianity, things were a lot more fluid. There wasn't some official, universally agreed upon checklist of sacred books. During what scholars call the Second Temple period, which is, roughly 500 BC to 70 AD, the whole era when Jesus lived, a book like 1 Enoch was wildly popular. Seriously, this was not some obscure text hidden away in a cave. It was a bestseller. It was part of the mainstream conversation for tons of early Jewish and Christian groups, and it deeply shaped how they thought about everything from angels and demons to sin and the end of the world. And if you want cold, hard proof of just how important this book was, look no further than the New Testament itself. Right there in the little book of Jude, the author directly quotes the Book of Enoch. And he doesn't just allude